On today's video, myself and this orange box of fun from Analog Alien are bringing you guys along for a Hillbilly Jazz Meltdown, courtesy of Brian Setzer. Well, hey there kids, it's your good buddy, Uncle Ben. September is Guitar Month over at Sweetwater.com, which means there's never been a better time to head on over there and order yourself some new gear and goodies. For the entire month, they're offering up all kinds of sick deals on the guitars of your dreams, the pedals of your fantasies, and the gear of your heart's desire. Myself, I just got this shiny new rumble seat from Analog Alien from Sweetwater, and it has inspired within me a rockabilly revival. And that's because this thing right here is just a big old box of boogie woogie with overdrive, delay, and reverb all in one convenient box. And you can snag one for yourself as well as any other piece of gear that your heart desires by clicking on the Sweetwater link in the video description below to check out all the hot deals for Guitar Month. It's also a great way to help support my channel, so don't delay. Shop today. Sweetwater.com. All the cool kids are doing it. Be somebody. You're cool. Within seconds of plugging in the rumble seat here, I was able to dial in some really fantastic, sopping wet rockabilly tones by dialing in a little bit of the overdrive, a nice tight slapback delay, and a little bit of that reverb just boinging around in there. I was having so much fun doing all this rockabilly stuff that I was like, I need to learn something authentico. I started looking a little more deeply into the works of the rockabilly god himself, Brian Setzer, and I checked out the intro to his song Hillbilly Jazz Meltdown, and I just knew that I had to learn it and share it with you guys. Be sure to stick around after the lesson portion of the video too for a little miniature Meet the Machine segment where I show you guys some of the awesome tones you're going to be able to get when you get this pedal. But you guys know how we do things around here. Before we get into the lesson, let's hear those hot licks again at stepdad speed. Now that right there is just a Jim Jam Jubilee, and it's chock-a-block full of everything that makes rockabilly guitar tick. You got some pentatonic and blues scale stuff in there, as well as some of those more jazzy, mixolydian kind of tones. So as we go through this lesson here, I'm going to be showing you guys the licks, but also explaining the chords and stuff that they take place over. That way you can repurpose, i.e. steal these ideas and import them into your own playing. As always, downloadable tabs, charts, and a bountiful boatload of bonus lessons are available to everybody who supports my channel over on patreon.com/Ben Eller Guitars. Today I'm playing my guitar through the Fractal Audio Axe-Fx 3 into like a little Fender Princeton style amp, totally clean tone, and all of the slight grit plus slapback delay and reverb that you're hearing on the tone are coming right here from the Analog Alien rumble seat pedal. We're going to start this lick off here on the second string using the B and C sharp notes. It's really important here to understand that you should start off with an upstroke because this is coming in on the upbeat. And then we're going to move on here to the first string on its F sharp note. We're going to pick that note with a downstroke and do 2 half-step bends in a row like this. And then we're going to walk down this little box of notes here. F sharp and E, C sharp and B. And then we're going to move on here to the C sharp note on the second string, and we're going to give it 2 half-step bends just like you did a second ago. Then what you're going to do is to walk down C sharp and B, grab the A note on the next string, and then this is tricky, so we got to do a little string skip here to the root note E on the first string. You'll notice there that I like to hybrid pick that note to keep my pick from jumping around like that. Like that's a lot harder to me than just using my middle finger, which was there already anyway, you know? Your mileage may vary. I'm not really sure if Brian does it with a pick stroke or with a hybrid pick note. I'm not really sure. But hey, hillbilly is in the name, and what do hillbillies do? We hybrid pick. I'm from Tennessee. I do the crap all the time. Now you'll notice there when I grab that high E note that I do it more with the knuckle rather than the fingertip like that. That's because my fingertip is needed to play the third string G note here in just a second anyway. So as you do this, you're really going to be kind of popping and locking from the knuckle to the fingertip to grab the G note like this. After you hit that G note, do a hammer-on to the G sharp. Now this right here is a trademark rockabilly sound. Again, to get the most out of this stuff, you gotta dig deep into the realm of harmony and think about what these notes mean to the chord they're being played against. We're playing over kind of an E major sound right now, right? So our root note is E. If I'm playing G, that note is its flat third. If I correct that up here to G sharp, that is its regular or major third. That sound of playing against a major chord and using its minor and major thirds is such a huge component of this style of music, and you're gonna see this all over Brian's playing. So anytime you just wanna add a little bit of that nasty kind of swagger into your blues or country playing, try adding that in. If you're playing against a major chord, play minor third, major third, in that order. It's pretty much never major third, minor third. It's pretty much always that lift from minor to major that just kind of instantly gives you that sound. So far we have this over the E chord. After this, what we're going to do is to play the root note E, the flat 7, D, which makes it sound kind of like a dominant chord, and then we're going to have this little chromatic run down the A string. Check this out. Now you could look at these 3 notes, B, B flat, and A, and kind of think about the blues scale. That's got that 5th, flat 5th, and 4th thing like that scale does. That's cool. And then what we're going to do is we're going to walk down those notes, and then this trick. Again, there it is once more. Minor third going up to major third, G to G sharp in this case. Cool little slide. And then end back up here on the root on the D string again. Then we get to the second lick, which is also over an E chord. So we're going to start off here with the B and C sharp, just like the other lick. And then on the high E, play this. G, E, F sharp. Do a little pre-bend right here and let it down before you go back to E. After that, you're going to play C sharp and B, followed by 2 E's, okay? After this, play C sharp, half step bend, pre-bent, let it down, then back to B. And then the back half of this lick is exactly like the back half of the last lick, starting off with the string skip from the 3rd to 1st strings, that little hammer on, walk down, sliding back up to the root note again. So over the E section we got point out that on the recording, it sounds like on that second lick, instead of doing this, sliding from the G to the G sharp before the root, it sounds like he accidentally does this and takes it all the way up to an A note. I don't think that was an intentional thing. I think that was just a happy little accident, as Bob Ross calls them. I'll point out a few more of those as we go through the lesson here. Now this is essentially following a blues progression, so after all that E stuff, we change over to more of an A or A dominant tonality. And what you're going to do is actually just import everything that you just learned only down here to the 5th fret. That way it all sounds out as relevant stuff for an A chord. Again, a huge part of rockabilly playing is following the chord changes like a jazz guy does. You know, rock and metal guys, we just pick like one scale that fits in for all the keys and chords and stuff like that, and we just wail up and down that thing. Whereas jazz guys and rockabilly guys and bluegrass guys and all that stuff, really cater more on a chord to chord basis. So if the tonality here is shifting to A, the licks also need to shift to things that are going to be relevant to that chord. So this is a cool thing. Just take everything that you just played up here at the 12th, only move it down here to the 5th position instead. And it's cool because it kind of sounds like a totally new lick because you're hearing new notes and stuff, when in reality it's just copy paste of the last thing that you played, okay? Only down here at the 5th. Check it out. And that's the really cool thing about adopting this more jazzy chord by chord sort of mindset, is whenever you play licks like that, it sounds like that chord. It's like you can really hear the chord in the licks. You don't just sound like a guy mindlessly playing through a scale pattern or whatever. You sound good and harmonically connected to the music. So no matter what kind of music it is that you're playing, these are things that really matter and can make you sound a lot better. After this, our tonality changes back to E, and we're gonna play the exact same thing as that second lick back up here at the 12th position. Let's talk about happy accident number 2 that happened whenever Brian recorded this. Because if you listen really closely, that kind of wind up to the lick is a little different this time. He actually plays this instead. Grabbing that D note, that flat 7, a little bit more bluesy sound. Again, I doubt it's intentional, you know, that he's like, I'm gonna play the same lick except change this one note that goes by in like a millisecond. I think it was an accident, but it is cool and worth acknowledging. And hey, it's also worth pointing out that your recordings don't have to be inhumanly perfect. Leave the humanity, leave the mistakes in there. It's what makes stuff sound cool. Now at this point we get to the turnaround, which is going to outline the 5 chord, kind of a B7, and then the 4 chord, an A7 kind of sound. And I love the licks that he plays here because at first glance they just look like a bunch of chromatic nonsense. Check this out. Starting off here on the D sharp note on the 2nd string, and all I'm going to do is to play up chromatically. Then shift down to the 1st string here with your 4th finger and walk down chromatically. Then walk down those same 4 notes on the 2nd string 2 times in a row. Okay, so that's up, down, down, down. Now at first that seems like so much digital gerrymandering until you start really thinking about the harmony. What do these notes mean to B, right? They're being played over kind of a B sound. Whenever he starts off here on D sharp, that's no mistake because that note is the 1, 2, 3, the 3rd of that chord, one of the important chord tones for a B7. So he's starting us off on a chord tone before he plays a couple notes that aren't really all that relevant. This string happens to end on F sharp, which is the 5th of B, again a chord tone. And then when you shift down here onto the high E string, you're on B, the root note. So even though you're playing through this just kind of like chromatic nonsense, you're still getting all the good stuff. 3rd, 5th, root. Also past my flat 7 and stuff right there too. Same goes for the next part when it shifts back to A. We're just going to move all these ideas down a whole step. So we're going to be starting off here on C sharp, the 3rd of an A chord, and so on. Same lick. Although again, if you listen really closely on the record, there's a happy accident on the 2nd time that he plays through the descending part right there. If you listen close, it sounds more like this. See how those last couple notes right there were kind of like a half step lower than they should have been? I think this is one of those things where he was kind of thinking about getting in position for the next lick, which is in the open position, and his hand probably just started to drift a little bit whenever he went to that position. Again, I don't think that was all that intentional. That leads us to the last lick, which is again back on our key center of E. Open position, kind of using a little bit of the E blues scale as well as, yet again, that minor 3rd, major 3rd kind of lilt that we've been using this whole time. So we're going to start off here on the 3rd fret on the high E string, the G note. We're going to give that 2, it's like quarter step bends before we hit it open twice. So notice those weren't exactly half like that. It was just kind of that in-between sort of bluesy space that you get whenever you bend that minor 3rd up about a quarter step. After this, play D and B on the B string, just like you're walking down the blues scale. And then this is really blues scaly right here. I'm playing the B flat, A, and G notes there on the 3rd string. Ending up right here on the root note on the 4th string, that's E. And then this move. That's the move right there. Notice I kind of rolled my middle finger there onto the third string, back to root. And then we're going to hit the open third string, the flat third, and hammer it onto the first fret, the major third. That's like the lick that drives like all country music and stuff. And then we're just going to walk down the remaining 3 strings here. So that was just E and D, B and A, and then when we reach the F sharp note here on the low E string, 2 more of those kind of quarter step bends. Root note and a big old-fashioned E chord. So we start off here with the first bendy lick on E. Second lick on E. Copy paste down to A. Back up to E. Chromatic madness on B. A. And our open position stuff. There is a high-speed picking and fretting workout, and don't feel obligated to like use the pick for everything, you know. It's really common in the style of music to use hybrid picking to help you out with all those string skips and stuff like that. You'll notice pretty much every time I have to jump from that third string to the first string, it's pretty much always a downstroke followed by a hybrid pick note. It's just easier for me, sounds cool too, and it's a good excuse to incorporate hybrid picking into your playing. And meow, let's meet the machines and talk about this cool cat right here, the Rumble Seat by Analog Alien. So this pedal sits in the rare place of being one of those, you know, multi-effects pedals that actually does stuff really well. I usually find whenever you get these kind of deals where it's like multiple effects all in one box, you maybe get one thing that's pretty cool and then a couple other things that are like close enough. But this really is one of those pedals that you could take to a gig and just plug into whatever, you know, backline, AC-15 or Twin or Deluxe or whatever, and get pretty much everything that you need out of it. Here's the part of the video where I say, here's my clean tone. One thing that many people know about me is that I am a true sauce boss. I gots to have me some reverb and or delay on pretty much anything that I'm playing. Even if it's like a heavy rhythm tone, I still want it to sound like it's happening somewhere in a room in some place, you know? I love having a little bit of reverb on board. That's a reverb sound that's cooler than the other side of the pillow, and I love it. Now, there's only one knob to adjust the reverb, which some people might see as a negative if you're used to using something like, let's say, the Axe Effects. It's awesome because you can conjure up absolutely anything, but it's also overwhelming because you can conjure up absolutely anything, you know? You can select a church reverb and it'll be like, well, what denomination? You're like, I want that Presbyterian reverb, you know? Whereas on this pedal, you just have one knob that controls how much verb there is. If you want less, turn it down. If you want more, turn it up. If you don't want any at all, turn it off. And over the range of the adjustment of that knob, you really do cover a lot of turf. Here it is with the reverb set at about 9 o'clock. As the knob approaches noon turf, you're going to start getting a lot longer trail on that delay. Oh, it's kind of like the Ren and Stimpy theme. You can also hear too, there's like a little modulation on the trail of that reverb. It's almost like a slight chorusing sound that you get whenever a spring is like really rattling around in a tank on an old amp. Pretty cool. With reverb at 9 o'clock, you are now soaking wet. And with the verb maxed out, it's enough to make Ben Lacey blush. Now let's check about the delays, which is one of the coolest parts about the unit here. Now, I would have figured just based on the appearance of the pedal, it's kind of got that vintage, rockabilly kind of surf sort of look to it. I kind of figured they would have just done a simple, slapback only kind of delay, where you just get a short single delay for those classic, surf sounds. But this thing actually goes a really far range, and you can use it even for like regular shred soloing and stuff like that if you want a nice, long, silky tail on those notes. Pretty standard 3-knob controls here for the delay. The first knob here controls how long the delay itself is. With it set really low like it is now, you just kind of get that immediate sort of slap back sound. I can push that back a few more milliseconds to make it even more apparent. And again, as you turn the knob up there, the delays get longer and longer. At its highest setting here, quite a long tail on that thing. And you can control how many repeats you get on that with the repeats knob, obviously enough. So if you set that thing really low, you just get 1 or 2 strong repeats out of it. With that set at more of that kind of slap back setting, the really quick thing, that's really where you want it, because you don't want to hear a slap back that like keeps repeating, you just kind of want to hear 1 or 2 short, tight echoes on that thing. And of course the mix knob here controls just how loud each of those sweet repeats is. And now let's talk about the dirty side of the box right here. It's that hot new rock and roll sound that's keeping the malt shops shaking and the sock hops rocking. It's that big nasty dirt sound. We've got output, a tone control where you can shape it just from being, dark or bright depending on maybe the amp you're playing through or just kind of the tone that you're after. And lastly, a gain knob that controls just how dirty we're talking here. Ooh. It actually offers up a surprising amount of tube tone grit, even with the gain set all the way down. So right now the overdrive is off. Here's my tone out of my bridge pickup. And here it is with it on and the gain set all the way off. So as soon as you turn it on, it kind of gives you a little bit of that kind of crunchy, I call it bruised clean tone, You can still hear every note of those chords and stuff, but it's just got a little hair on it. The tone of it actually reminds me a lot of like old Marshalls, that are wound up really high, or even some of the more recent, vintage style orange amps that have that good classic British crunch. I'm gonna wind the gain up here to about 9 o'clock. really hear on this too that as you wind that gain up, it really is like cranking up an old plexi or something like that, where not only do you get more gain, but the bass and stuff gets this kind of like fuzzy, flubby thing going on that sounds like massive when you play power chords and stuff with. It's really fun to play with because it really does sound like, again, an old Marshall that's about to explode, only it's, you know, coming through your monitors at a bearable volume. So far I've kept the tone control at noon, but I'm just going to strum a chord here and sweep through there so you can hear the range that that knob will give you in terms of the EQ adjustment. As you just heard, there is quite a lot of range in that EQ adjustment right there. I mean, at its lowest, it is unusably dark. At its highest, it is unusably bright. But that really just depends on what amp you're running it through. I mean, maybe you're playing through some kind of really old, super bright Marshall or something like that. You want to tone it down a little bit, keep it from getting too shrill. Then maybe this becomes a very usable setting, you know? Contrary to that, if you're playing through an amp that's just super dark, or maybe the room itself is really dark sounding and just killing all your top end, maybe that's when you crank that tone knob up and stuff gets nice and clear and shimmery. So it's got a wide range, but that means you can use it for pretty much anything. And now let's just turn them all on and play some notes. So there you go, guys. Whether you're looking to become a rockabilly rebel, a surf king, or maybe just a guy that shows up and plugs into whatever amp is there with one pedal to get a good usable tone, this little rumble seat here by Analog Alien is a great choice. And be sure to get one for yourself or any other piece of gear that your heart so desires by clicking the link in the video description below, heading over to Sweetwater, and joining in the pageantry, the regality, the majesty that is Guitar Month, all September long at Sweetwater.com. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks to Analog Alien, Sweetwater, Brian Setzer, Steve I, Tony Hawk, I don't know. Thanks to everybody who's cool for being cool, I guess. Be sure to support my channel and get a bunch of cool bonus stuff over at patreon.com/Ben Eller Guitars. You can also grab the tabs for this lesson on my Instagram page at Ben Eller Guitars. You can find it quickly by typing in #WeekendWankShop, then whatever number this episode is. I think it's 282 or 283. I don't know, try them both. You'll find it. You'll find something else cool even if you're wrong. So type that in, you'll find the tabs on Instagram for free. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel and ring the bell for notifications next time I upload a new slice of fried gold right here, just for you guys. Thanks again for watching. I'll catch you guys later. It's time to go practice. Less clicking, more picking. Toot toot.